Well, we always say retirement is a journey, one that you shouldn't have to navigate solo. So that is why every week here on The Right Path to Retirement, we turn to financial advisor Jimmy Lynn, certified financial planner and the founder of Right Path Wealth Management right here in Las Vegas. Now, Jimmy, if retirement could last longer than we expect, then every decision that we make along the way carries a little more weight. And that brings me to tax strategy, because it's not only about your income in retirement, it's about how much of that income you get to keep. So I want to talk about the Roth IRA for a moment. Contributing to a Roth IRA has its limits. At age 50 or older, you're only allowed to contribute up to $8,600 a year, including your catch-up contribution. And if you make too much money, we're talking $168,000 a year for singles, $252,000 a year if you're married. You're shut out entirely. But all's not lost. Wealth planner Tim Steffen tells Morningstar there's still an option called a backdoor Roth. Let's take a listen.
If you're not able to contribute because your income's too high and you don't have any IRA dollars to convert, the backdoor is a way to do that. So you put money into the traditional IRA and then wait some period of time, sometimes a day, sometimes longer, depending on what people want to do. And then you convert that to a Roth IRA. So backdoor Roth isn't really a thing. It's really just a traditional contribution followed by a conversion, which anybody can do that. That's a perfectly legitimate strategy.
Okay, so he makes it sound pretty straightforward, Jimmy, but I'm wondering what could go wrong if somebody tries this backdoor Roth on their own. They try to DIY this situation and they maybe overlook those small details.
Well, Casey, first of all, we do love the Roth IRA at our offices. We think it's a really powerful account because, for those listeners that may be unfamiliar, the Roth IRA is essentially a retirement account where you put after-tax money. So money you've already paid taxes on, you put that into that Roth IRA and it can grow tax-free for you. And later down in retirement, when you start needing to pull money out of accounts as an income stream, or you got an emergency you got to take care of, like you got a new AC units that you got to install, you got to buy a new car. There's a lot of different times in your life during retirement where you're going to have to write a big check. And if you don't plan for that, oftentimes people end up taking that out of their 401k or their traditional IRA, and it becomes a large tax bill because it adds to your ordinary income, which can do things like trigger, higher Social Security taxes, potentially force them to pay higher Medicare Part B premiums. So we love the Roth IRA because it adds flexibility. Now, having said that, I think the trouble sometimes with getting your strategies from social media or from different sources where you can't dig deeper is that it sounds very simple. Like what that clip did, it sounded like a solid plan, which it is, but there's a lot of gotchas there. And if you're not familiar with it, like the saying is, the squeeze is not worth the juice, or the juice is not worth the squeeze. I think so in that scenario, you just got to be aware. You really want to work with somebody. I'll give you a couple examples of where you definitely want to make sure that you understand what you're doing. So when we're talking about the backdoor Roth conversion, it's absolutely correct, right? There are contribution limits based on the amount of income that you have. So if you're a high earner, whether you're single or you're married, there's a point in which you're no longer allowed to contribute money into that Roth IRA because it's such a powerful account. But what you can do in what this backdoor Roth strategy does is you can contribute to a traditional IRA. Everyone can contribute to a traditional IRA, and there's limits to how much you can contribute. The difference is if you earn too much, typically in that traditional IRA, if you contributed, let's say $7,000, you actually get a tax deduction, meaning the income that you report to the IRS gets reduced by that $7,000, so you pay less taxes. But if you earn too much, you no longer get that deduction, right? So you don't get that tax advantage up front of deducting your income during that tax year, but you can still contribute to that traditional IRA. That's called an after-tax contribution. Now, the beauty of that, as that clip said, is that you can immediately, because you've already paid taxes on that contribution to that traditional IRA, you can immediately convert that to a Roth IRA. And so that is your Roth contribution. So it's kind of a workaround. That's why they call it, the backdoor Roth contribution for these higher earners. But the trouble is, and this is something that people just aren't that familiar with, Casey, is there's something called the pro rata rule. Mm-hmm. And what that means is that if you already have money in a traditional IRA that is pre-tax, meaning that you actually got that tax benefit of putting money into that account. You got a tax deduction and you have not paid any taxes on that contribution into the IRA. That's called a pre-tax contribution. Well, the IRS, they want to make sure that if you're converting money, you can't just put after-tax money into IRA and say, I want to convert only this portion into Roth. No, they're going to look at all of your IRA money and count it as a big bucket. And then basically give you kind of an example. If you had $90,000 in a pre-tax account, and then you add $10,000 of after-tax money, now you got $100,000 in there. You can't just convert that $10,000 of after-tax. You basically have to take your whole bucket of money, and only 10% of your after-tax gets converted and 90% of your pre-tax gets converted. So you can see right now, Casey, that I'm even getting this twisted
Very
around.
confusing.
Because
Yes.
it's so confusing, right? Yeah. So imagine the retiree out there that this is not their world and they're trying to figure this out. They're going to oftentimes they're getting hit with a tax bill because they don't know the rules and how it all works. So that's just one example of where there's a lot of gotchas and you really want to talk to somebody that kind of does this every single day.
Well, even you just saying it's so easy to mess up. Even you were getting tripped up thinking about it because there are so many moving parts to it. How much stress could something like this create if it's not done correctly? If somebody tries to DIY this on their own, they make a mistake, they make a misstep. Have you seen it kind of snowball effect and cause stress throughout their entire retirement plan when they were just trying to work on this one little part?
Oh yeah, you got to bring in professionals to fix it. You got to go in and start, backdating when you did this conversion, what the balances were at that time, and you kind of do a true up. And the other thing about this is, what we're talking about, the pro rata rule, that's not even the starting point. The starting point is people forget that there's also a Form 8606 that you have to submit to the IRS. And it's essentially what that is, that's a form that tracks all of your after-tax contributions. Because if I'm not getting a tax deduction when I contribute to that traditional IRA, that means I've already paid taxes on that money. I want to make sure the IRS knows that I've paid taxes on this money so that in the future, I am not basically getting that double taxation. The Form 8606, I would say for me, seeing people that try to do this backdoor Roth conversion, that's probably the first thing that I see people forgetting is that they are not submitting these forms on an ongoing basis. So you can see that between not submitting your Form 8606 and then not understanding the pro rata rule, just those two things will get somebody tripped up. And you have all the best intentions of trying to save taxes in your retirement accounts. And what you're actually going to be ending up doing is creating a larger tax issue in the future. So it's really worth it to talk to somebody that can walk you through step by step the things that you are going to want to do and the things that you got to look out for that could trip you up. Because it can be a very, very powerful strategy, but only when it's done correctly.
702-744-8344. Just want to remind you of our phone number again. Jimmy, there are so many moving parts. I'm getting nervous just hearing you talk about it. So what is the right way that you want your retirees, your pre-retirees to be thinking about this? Is the backdoor Roth a one-time move, or does it need to fit into a bigger tax and retirement overall strategy? I'm leaning towards the latter the more and more you're talking about this.
That's the whole thing, Casey. You hit it right on the head, is that no plan is done in isolation. Like no strategy fits in a bubble. It all is part of a whole comprehensive, holistic plan. So you want to make sure that your tax strategy is there for a purpose that's going to help you in retirement with your income needs, with your estate planning needs. So it definitely does not want to be something that you're implementing in isolation. It has to be part of a larger plan.
So if we've got somebody listening, they're thinking, I might qualify for this. This might make sense for me. I've thought about a backdoor Roth before, but I'm not totally sure. What would your advice be to them? What should they do next?
Simple. Just give us a call and we can walk you through it, talk about your situation, and pretty quickly identify whether it's something that you should pursue more, and we can kind of sit down and figure out, in detail if it is a worthwhile strategy. But I think a conversation makes sense first, because you can go online and try to pick at different resources, social media posts, YouTube videos, but you really want to be able to kind of map it all together in your custom situation. So I think the first step, because this is a valuable strategy and it can be very, very powerful if done correctly. First step is really just having a conversation. So I would say the starting point is give us a call. We're happy to talk about it.
702-744-8344 is that phone number for you again. And so when somebody comes to you for this retirement consultation, Jimmy, and you're looking at their specific situation, how do you find out if a backdoor Roth even makes sense for their situation? What are you keeping your eyes peeled for when you're going through somebody's situation for the first time?
We're really just trying to first take an inventory of all the different resources that they have going into retirement. Big portion of it is how much tax deferred money do you have versus tax free money. And then there's, taxable brokerage accounts. So making sure that there's a balance between all the different accounts, and then identifying how much fixed income sources that they're going to have in retirement, because those fixed income sources, whether it be Social Security or a pension, that can increase your taxable income. So you may want to create some balance and some tax-free money. So there's a lot of moving parts. And then ultimately it boils down to what is our long-term goals? Are we trying to create an estate and a legacy for our kids and our grandkids? So it is a very goal-based conversation. It starts with what resources and kind of an inventory of what they have, and then figuring out what their goals are in retirement. And then the strategy works itself out. The strategy has to be aligned with the goals. You don't just have a strategy without understanding what the ultimate goal is. So we really have that conversation to figure out what is the end result you want to achieve.
And how much of this strategy would you say depends on what somebody already has in place, maybe before they come see you?
I think a lot of it does. Most of our listeners right now, they've done the heavy lifting of saving for retirement, or they've stayed at jobs where they're going to get some type of pension or something of that nature. And so they've done a lot of hard work, but they haven't necessarily created that plan. So a lot of it depends on, what do they have now? And then how can you optimize it? How can we provide some suggestions or strategies like a backdoor Roth to really optimize what they have right now? But most of the listeners right now, they've done the heavy lifting. I give them all the credit for doing everything to get themselves to this point. So once you have conversations like this, whether it's with us or someone that you trust, it is really about optimizing your situation.
That is going to do it for us this week. We will be back next week, same time, same place, with more great insight from certified financial planner Jimmy Lynn here on The Right Path to Retirement. Take care.
Insurance products are offered through the insurance business Right Path Wealth Management. Right Path Wealth Management is also an investment advisory practice that offers products and services through Impact Partnership Wealth, LLC, a registered investment advisor. IPW does not offer insurance products. The insurance products offered by Right Path Wealth Management are not subject to investment advisory requirements. Investing involves risk, including potential loss of principal. Any reference to the protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims paying ability of the issuing carrier. This radio podcast is intended for informational purposes only. It's not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decision, nor should it be construed as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual situation. Right Path Wealth Management is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during the show shall constitute tax or legal advice. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. The information and opinions contained herein provided by third parties have been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by Right Path Wealth Management.
Market Guard is a firm that provides investment signals as well as portfolio allocation recommendations, wide variety of model portfolios. Market Guard does not offer advice or enter into fiduciary relationships.